Welcome to The Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. I hope each and every one of you have been able to get your minds off of politics and just relax and enjoy the holidays with your friends and family. So in the spirit of the season and taking our minds off the worries of the world, the Eye Opener team has put together a special episode. Now, if you're a regular viewer of the show, you have come to know that we enjoy veering off the political path and every once in a while and tell stories of encouragement, American tradition, art, wisdom, and of God and spirituality. So please grab all your family members and tell them to join you on the sofa. And I want you all to sit back and enjoy a compilation of stories from past episodes that will inspire you, lift your spirits, and get you on the right track for a positive 2022. Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. The Epoch Times has an excellent section on their website called Dear Next Generation. This particular section is dedicated to readers who want to share their life's personal stories with young people. This is a brilliant idea, and the stories shared are fantastic, absolutely worth checking out. Here's one of them. Dear Next Generation. Several years ago, I caught a flight out of California to attend a funeral back east. During the final leg of my trip, I pulled out a business magazine I had purchased during a layover. An article featured advice from several leading business giants caught my eye, especially one story in particular. The author was interviewing a CEO of a major global firm and asked him to share any insight gained through his years of experience. The executive shared a story of a time when he and his family were vacationing in India, where they had an opportunity to travel on a guided safari, riding large elephants across the landscape. At predetermined points of interest along the route, the group would stop and dismount as their guide prepared to secure each elephant. He began by driving a steel stake about 1 foot deep into the ground with a small but weighty hammer and repeated this task in front of each animal. Next, they walked down the line and took the leader rope of each elephant and quickly hitched it around the stake in front of them. The executive became intrigued. He observed the guide's method of securing each of these majestic beasts. He asked the guide, what keeps an elephant from simply raising his head up and pulling the stake out of the ground and setting himself free? Surely a small stake only 1 foot deep couldn't adequately hold such a large animal in place against his own will. You are right, said the guide. The elephant can easily lift up his head and pull the stake out of the ground, but he doesn't know that. The guide went on to explain that when an elephant is a baby, he's tied under the same conditions. The baby will pull several times against the stake, but cannot set himself free. From the time forward, the baby will grow into an adult, believing that he cannot pull the stake out of the ground. At that moment, the CEO thought of all the people he had known in business who demonstrated the same affliction as those elephants. People who were capable of much greater things in life, but were somehow tied to the stake of their own memories and imaginations, unable to lift their heads and set themselves free. Now, I love the message that lies in this story. It makes the observation that it doesn't really take much for people to get bogged down by the misconceptions of life and of themselves. We all know a lot of us have had a rough start to life. Abuse, broken family, drugs, you name it, the list is endless. Unfortunately, these negative experiences accumulate over time and through our lives and become the equivalent that tiny little rope is in the story that easily subdues all the elephants. But the real power of this message is the light it shines on the misconceptions. Like the elephant, if you're able to recognize how powerful you are and how tremendously weak the misconceptions, you would just lift your head and free yourself. We must not allow evil to utilize mainstream media and big tech to create misconceptions in our minds that we are powerless. I will tell you this, they are the ones who are scared. They are scared that at any moment, Americans will wake up to the truth that their power over us is only as strong as that tiny piece of rope. Lift your head and be free, America. I don't know if you have noticed, Somali pirates who frequently appear in media coverage in the past few years seem to have completely disappeared in recent times. Is it because the Navy ships from various countries have eliminated the pirates? Well, let me tell you the legendary story as to how and why the Somali pirates disappeared. The coast of Somalia is one of the world's busiest shipping routes and the most dangerous seas because pirates are rampant. Getting supplies and ransom from merchant ships seem to be the only reliable way for the extremely poor Somalis to get rich. Pirates show up in groups armed with AK-47s, rocket tubes, and other light weapons. They rob, kidnap, and extorted merchant ships, which seriously affected world trade. In order to deal with this group of sea thieves, the world's navies have been working hard. The United States, NATO, the European Union, Russia, Japan, and other countries had all sent warships to the sea to escort their merchant ships. However, it was difficult to solve the problem by using cannons to shoot mosquitoes. Pirates are not stupid. When they see large warships, they would hide far away. And when they see a single merchant ship, they would then attack. But Kiyoshi Komaro, a 63-year-old owner of the famous Japanese sushi chain, Sushi Janmai, wiped out the Somali pirates with a brilliant plan. Okay, let me explain this brilliant plan to you. The sea off of Somalia is a good fishing ground for high-priced tuna, and Japan is a large consumer of tuna. But in the past, Japanese businessmen stayed away from Somalia because of the rampant piracy. Kiyoshi Komaro, being a successful and wise businessman, had an idea. What if I gave the Somali pirates an offer they couldn't refuse? On the Japanese internet, the conversation between Kiyoshi Komaro and the Somali pirates is spreading. Here's how it goes. Mr. Komaro, Somalia is such a good fishing ground. Why are you being pirates? Pirates. We were also fishermen before, but after the Civil War, we cannot fish. We can only be pirates for a living. Komaro, how about you help me tuna fish? Pirates. We have no fishing boats. Komaro. I can give you boats. Pirates. We don't have the technology to catch tuna either. Komaro. I can teach you that. Pirates. We don't have any cold storage to keep the tuna we catch. Komaro. I will build a cold storage for you. Pirates. We can't export tuna without joining trade organizations. Komaro. I will help you negotiate. Pirates. Then it's a deal. We'll go fish tuna for you. This sounds like a movie plot. In fact, the real story of Komaro and the pirates is very close to this. The harsh natural environment and perennial warfare has made Somalia one of the world's poorest countries. Despite having a long coastline rich with fishing resources, their fishermen's small fishing boats could not compete with the ocean-going fishing vessels from Europe and East Asia. Somalis became ship-robbing pirates as a last option to make a living. Komaro ventured to find someone to arrange a meeting with the pirates. He proposed hiring them to catch tuna offshore. Compared to being pirates and earning money with a gun, it would be much more dignified to work and earn money to support their family. In addition to providing professional boats, fishing equipment, building refrigerating warehouses, and teaching techniques for catching large tuna, Komaro also took the lead in getting Somalia to join the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission, which allowed for the export of tuna. He also promised the pirates that he would purchase all the tuna they caught so that their livelihood and market would be ensured. Komaro's efforts are evident. According to the International Maritime Bureau statistics, piracy victimization cases in the Somali waters began to plummet since 2011, and by 2015, not a single occurrence was reported. By using force alone, perhaps unsuccessful pirates may want to change careers. But even if they weren't pirates, if no new job opportunities exist, these people will still seek other ways to commit crimes. Komaro's method eradicated the fundamental problem of pirates from the root. Djibouti, Somalia's neighboring country, was so impressed with Komaro's actions that the Djibouti authorities even awarded him a medal to show their appreciation. The story of Somali pirates reminds us that leading a dignified life means having opportunities to genuinely work hard. Providing people with a way of life that allows them to be self-sufficient is the best way to solve the social problems of poverty and crime. It's like the old adage saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Show him how to catch fish and you feed him for a lifetime. One day we hope that politicians here in America could lead our country with such wisdom. But unfortunately, this quote from Thomas Sowell better explains American politicians' approach to poverty. Give a man a fish and he will ask for tartar sauce and French fries. Moreover, some politician who wants his vote will declare all these things to be among his basic rights. Okay, let me ask you all this. Have you ever run over to your neighbors and asked to borrow eggs? Or has your neighbor knocked on the door with home-cooked food that was made just for you and your family? Well, I know I have. And today I want to pay homage to my neighborhood and the beautiful families that surround my home that I have the great privilege to call my neighbors. I want to share an article titled, "Dad Who Grew Up in Single-Parent Family Celebrates Childhood Neighbors Who Helped Raise Him." This article tells a story that is aligned with the old adage, it takes a village to raise a child. But most importantly, I hope by the end you will see the beauty of community and the sometimes underappreciated blessings we call neighbors. Cody Shugart is a proud father of 4 children. Together with his wife, the couple runs the town's oldest dance studio, the Aubrey Shugart School of Dancing in Victoria, Texas. Cody goes on to say, "My mother, Yvette Shugart, raised me and my brother Adam by herself. Yvette was a court reporter who moved with her children to Victoria when Cody was only 2 years old. That's where they met their neighbor, Mr. Chip. Mr. Chip, a Vietnam veteran with the U.S. Marines, influence on Cody and his brother. Cody said Mr. Chip's real name is Milton West, and he is married to Shirley West. The connection I made with Mr. Chip was started with the admiration and respect for him. Prone to getting in trouble, Cody found himself sitting in Mr. Chip's driveway time and time again, receiving life advice from the kindly veteran. Cody reminisced, he would always remind me how important it was to respect my mother and to behave. I got a man to fill a void in my life. Cody also credits his outgoing personality and fearlessness to Mr. Chip. He taught me that color of a man's skin means nothing. The only color that matters is the color of our heart and how we choose to use it. One of the most beautiful things about kindness, love, and admiration is that it has no limits. And now Mr. Chip has become Cody's 4 children's honorary grandfather. Mr. Chip's adopted grandchildren call him Pops. Unfortunately, Mr. Chip is currently on dialysis, so the Shugarts have scaled back their visits to protect his health during the pandemic. Yet, Mr. Chip calls Cody and pretends to threaten him with police action for not letting him see his grandbabies. Once the rant is over, we have a great laugh together. Cody ended the article by saying, "I wanted people to see the great man I have known all my life," adding a personal message for Mr. Chip himself. "If I become a fraction of the man you are, I will know that my kids will be on the right path. I loved you then, I love you now, and I will love you forever." And with that being said, I just want to say to my neighbors, from my family to yours, we love you and we appreciate you. And to all of you out there who watch and support the show, don't waste the opportunity to make a neighbor a part of your family. Traditional religious beliefs are in decline. Fewer Americans say they belong to established churches, and there has been a marked decline in those who attend religious services. Some Americans see this as just a sign of the times, a cultural change. Critics of traditional religion see this as a trend that is inevitable as we move away from outdated beliefs not suitable for our modern times. Neither view, however, is consistent with the dominant political tradition in the United States. That tradition sees religion as an important component of American political culture. According to this ancient understanding, the American administration could not serve its purpose if people did not enjoy their religious beliefs and could not practice them. In other words, the United States could not truly be America. On the one hand, we are committed to self-government, and on the other hand, we are equally committed to the protection of individual rights. There is broad consensus that these rights are not merely the product of political negotiation, but they are rooted in nature. These rights constitute the eternal social and moral order which all governments, including democracies, are obliged to respect. However, history has taught us that the majority rule does not ensure consistent and just rule, does not always respect the rights of individuals, and often ignores the rights of the politically powerless. Democracy also has many dangers, one of which is the tyranny of the majority. The Founding Fathers aimed to create a country where politicians were elected by the people, and then these representatives had to follow the Constitution to administer the law of the land. To achieve this, the Founding Fathers largely exploited the prudential institution arrangements embodied in the Constitution. The bicameral system of dividing Congress into a Senate and a House of Representatives requires that any law must receive a majority vote in both chambers. The separation of powers between the legislative, executive, and judicial branches provides an additional safeguard. Finally, the system advocates a federal system of division of power between the federal government and the states that limits the probability of majority tyranny by ensuring that the national majority does not have the right to dominate the political life of the country, with a large portion of that power reserved to the states as a distinct political communities that enjoy a large degree of autonomy. The Founding Fathers, however, did not believe that this constitutional structure would by itself provide sufficient protection against the tyranny of the majority. They also recognized that the nation needed a morally serious community of citizens, a community that itself possessed the moral discipline to resist the desire to violate the rights of others in the pursuit of its own interests. James Madison, the fourth president, argued that institutional arrangements were as important as auxiliary precautions because that there must be a consensus that the first line of protection against the tyranny of the majority was the good moral character and virtue of the people themselves. George Washington, the first president, believed that religion and morality were indispensable supporting forces that contributed to political prosperity. How, he asked, could property, honor, and life be safeguarded if a sense of religious duty abandoned the oath, which was the instrument of just investigation in the courts? He reminded his compatriots that the two great forces of justice, religion and morality, could not be separated from each other in political practice. In other words, one could not hope to maintain a moral civil society without the influence of religion. In his famous Thanksgiving Proclamation of 1789, Washington said that the civil rights and religious liberty were natural rights that all citizens should cherish and be grateful for. Thomas Jefferson, the third president, in his book, Notes on the State of Virginia, made religious belief a necessary condition in support of the respective rights, a view that was entirely consistent with Washington. When reflecting on the terrible problem of slavery in American history, Jefferson asked, "Can the liberties of our country be considered secure if we do away with the only solid foundation of the conviction in the minds of the people that freedom is the gift of God to every man? Would those liberties still be considered sacrosanct?" For the Founding Fathers, religious faith and physicality of the nation should be encouraged, as this act was essentially to the establishment of decent and moderate self-government. At the same time, however, religious belief and practice must not be subject to any form of coercion, as such behavior is an infringement on religious freedom. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president, also praised America's protection of religious freedom. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president, also praised America's protection of religious freedom, arguing that an attack on religion was an attack on public morality. Some of us may be rather smug about the decline of religion, believing that rights and freedoms belong to the modern and the progressive, while religion has served its usefulness and is now a liability. However, the founders and the political traditions they set in place have repeatedly warned us that such thinking is extremely wrong. Religious practices support and promote the morality necessary for a free society, and therefore, as President Washington said, we are patriotic and pious, and therefore we promote religious belief and practice. As Alexis de Tocqueville, a French political thinker, wrote in 1835, authoritarianism can be without faith, but a free society cannot. If a people cannot fear God and think they are righteous and reckless, where will they be? Where does that nation go from here? I really hope you all enjoyed the episode. 2021 has been such a roller coaster ride, but please, let me leave you with some insights that I have been so blessed to come to know, and I promise it will help you in 2022. The universe is inherently truthful. The sun always rises and sets. An apple seed always produces apples. They never become oranges. The only thing on the planet that lies are human beings who have lost the understanding of the beauty and honor of living truthfully. We also must not forget that we are all born of ignorance. We all have different upbringings and we all have different experiences that shape our individual ways of understanding and perceiving the world. Keeping this in mind, let's all become more tolerant towards each other. When you practice tolerance, you will find people feel peaceful in your presence. And this is a very subtle and profound way to have a major impact at work, with your friends, and most importantly, with your family. And lastly, live with kindness in your heart. If you want to make a change in the new year, if you want to improve your relationship with your husband or with your wife, if you want to become more successful, if you want to make a positive contribution to the world, then improve yourself. Become a kind person. Make kindness a priority in your life. I want to thank you all for joining me on this journey. I look forward to all the good and bad 2022 will present because we will face it together. And on behalf of the Eye Opener team, we wish you all a Happy New Year. Salute, my friends. And that's it for today, my friends. Check out the playlist right here for more eye-opening content. You can join me in the Eye Opener Telegram chat room and follow me on YouMaker, Gab, Parler, and Getter. Now don't forget, please sign up to the email list so that we can stay in touch. I'd like to thank you all, and I'll see you next time.